you guys are definitely. Oh, hey Zuri, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am great. Okay, we got Diamond in the building. How are you?
Good. How are you, girl?
Okay, we're waiting for Jehron to come in. But yes, I'll let you guys do your thing and we'll get started.
Great.
Cool. All right, so I am Diamond. I am an associate product manager with Indeed.com. I am a graduate of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I graduated May 2019. And yeah, I led a couple orgs in college that were related to bridging the gap between ambition and opportunity. And so, of course, I continued that on into my work at Indeed. And that's what brought me here to moderate this panel. Do you want to go ahead and do intros now or later?
It's up to you. We can do them now if you
You
want.
need to go now, yeah.
Because it might be awkward to do it later. Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, I'm Zuri Godfrey, a junior business management major and student athlete at Howard University. Originally from Hampton, where I reside now, but I chose the real HU. So shout out to all the Howard folks if you're tuned in. And then just a little bit about me from a personal standpoint. My mantra is faith, family, and football. I feel like those are the three things that God has used to mold me and develop me into the man I'm becoming. From a professional standpoint, probably what you all want to hear more so about, I have experience within a lot of different industries. The few I'll name today and I'll speak to today is financial services through my experiences with JP Morgan as a sophomore edge participant and a launching leaders participant, through consulting, who I have an array of experiences with big 3 companies and big 4 companies, received a scholarship from McKinsey & Company and actually interned this previous summer with PwC as a management consultant intern. And then something that's more relevant to this is my marketing role that I'm about to partake in the summer. I'll be a incoming bold associate product marketing manager and no other than Google. So that's a little bit about me, and I look forward to this panel.
Cool. What's up, guys? I'm Jehron. I'm a computer science major at Cornell University, graduating this May. Not walking across that stage, but still getting that degree. As far as my background goes, I've interned as a software engineer at Two Sigma, a quantitative hedge fund, at Google, as a software engineer, as well as a product manager last summer. And I'll be heading back to Google as an associate product manager. In addition to my professional work outside of school, on campus, I've done a lot of diversity work, increasing Black and Latinx participation in entrepreneurship, as well as computer science. So I founded Black Entrepreneurs in Training and built an organization called Underrepresented Minorities in Computing, which I'm actually turning into a national nonprofit called ColorStack. In addition to that stuff, I stream Call of Duty gameplay on Twitch. I write a monthly newsletter, and I read a ton of books.
Cool. So we have 2 dope panelists, and before we get into the Q&A, we all decided that it makes sense to kind of set a lay of the land of tech and kick this off with some tech facts, because tech is all about data, no matter what you hear, what you think. And so we want to give you some facts about tech before we jump in. So succeeding in tech requires the ability to access information strategically and then leverage it in unique ways. Like anywhere you go, you'll find that this is true. So when we think about opportunities in tech, based on the 2018 Social Security consumption of data, the average yearly wage for the United States was $52,145. The average salary for a non-tech or tech adjacent role is $73,500. So that's about a $20,000 difference when you look at opportunities in tech compared to other industries or the average American. So you can definitely be on your way to be an affluent American in the United States by being in tech. The other thing that we want to talk about is about framing the opportunities in tech. So out of the 100% of jobs in tech, 43% of those jobs are non-tech or tech adjacent roles. So there is opportunity for people who want to be in tech want to be in tech and don't want to be in a technical role, or also want to be in tech and want to be in a technical role. So going further and explaining what I mean by non-tech or a tech adjacent role, the most common non-tech roles are account executive, project manager, product marketing manager, a strategy analyst, or sales and marketing. So those are the common ones that you'll hear, and those are the predominant non-tech roles. As far as tech adjacent roles, that's something a little different. These people don't necessarily have a computer science degree, but maybe work with engineers or front-end developers at some point in time. And so these roles are product manager, a technical product manager or a technical program manager, data scientist, and business analyst. The last thing that I want to talk about is that when we think about tech, we normally think about big tech. So like Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Google. As you can see, like we have some Google representatives here, but I work at Indeed. Yes, but I work at Indeed, and I didn't even apply to any of the big five. And so I want us to have the equal understanding that tech does not stop at those companies. Tech is extensive, it's expansive, and you can acquire opportunities in any company that has either tech adjacent roles or like a tech branch. So the data point that I want to bring into that is like in 2018, based on Glassdoor's consolidation of data, Walmart had the most jobs available in tech. And so I know for most of you, you don't think about Walmart and tech in the same sentence. They seem to be mutually exclusive, but companies are growing and they're adapting. And so most companies that you interact with are actually tech companies or have some tech department that you could actually work in. So now that we've kind of provided those facts, we can hop into the Q&A. Excuse me, actually, no, before we do that, Jehron wanted to say a few words, kind of set the stage and kind of ensure that we're empowering each other before we kick off the Q&A.
Yeah, for sure. So one thing that I think about a lot when I do this mentorship work and try to get more people into tech is emphasizing, one, that tech it was an industry, but now it's becoming a standard, right? So every industry is going to be using tech or just be tech enabled in general. And so it benefits anybody who wants to be part of the new age economy to be a part of tech. But specifically when it comes to minority folks and people from marginalized groups, tech can be an equalizer, right? It can be a way for you to achieve economic equality for your family compared to the rest of the country. I've seen interns, students, freshmen, making more money than their parents combined, right? And like that's insane, right? They're going to change their family's economic situation forever. And so that's kind of why I'm passionate about tech and why I encourage all of you to not necessarily be technical, but just embrace technology as, a future standard.
Okay, bet. So let's get into the Q&A before we run out of time. All right. So first question for Zuri is, why the tech industry? Mm-hmm. What opportunities does a career in tech offer relative to other industries? You kind of laid out some facts, but tell us your perspective.
Absolutely. So to answer the first question of why tech for me personally, it came down to two things. One, I like to begin with the end in mind. That's one of the 7 highly effective habits that you can have. And with that being said, I know that tech now and forevermore is going to be popular, but it's also going to be a necessity within every company, and it's going to be a necessity to everyone, just your everyday user. So that's one of the main reasons. And then a second reason is how competitive it is. And when I say competitive, I mean in regards to the business side of the technical companies that you have, like Facebook, Amazon, Google, who's well represented today. And to dive more in depth about what I was saying for competition, with me being an athlete, I breed and love competition. And to give you all an example and to provide some perspective, the role that I'm coming in is very competitive, so much that you have to interview again after you intern to receive the full-time position. So that just shows you how competitive it is and how small of a head count that they have within these technical jobs or technical companies with business roles. So yeah, that's the answer to the first question. And then the second, could you repeat it, Diamond?
Yeah, so what opportunities does a career in tech offer compared to other industries?
Mm-hmm. I would say compared to other industries, I can only basically speak on my experience and my perspective in regards to the other industries and fields being consulting and your financial services. The tech industry is it's an experience. From the culture, from the clothes that you wear, from the people you talk to and work with, they're diverse, and they're just very relaxed. They're very down to earth. And if you're like that, then tech is definitely the place that you want to be. If you're not necessarily the 9 to 5 suit and tie guy or gal, then tech is something that is a benefit compared to other industries and other fields and lines of work.
Okay, nice. Moving forward to Jehron, what is tech? What is tech, and what misconceptions do people have about tech?
Yeah. So I think when tech first started out, right, and this is like early 1900s, it was all about math, right? Like, how can we do math? How can we compute things without manually writing, like computing math equations, right? How do we automate those processes? And so that's why in the very early stages, it was an industry. But now we're seeing technology that used to just do math help us do other things in the world, right? Like gather information, compute healthcare costs, find, connect people with each other, or like a buyer to a seller, right? And so I think that now, like more so now, it's just a platform that the world is building on top of and helping us do things more efficiently, more cost effective, and at scale. And so one of the common misconceptions because of that is that people, rightfully so, are still leaning on this tech as an industry type conception, but now it's that tech is enabling all industries to cut their costs and actually achieve more.
Wow.
Dope. So in thinking about like the perceptions that we bring into every situation that we go in, whether it's an interview or a conversation with a recruiter, and it's very casual, no matter what it is, those perceptions tend to hold us back. And so I'm curious about Zuri, what was the most challenging thing about accessing tech? Was it like saying the wrong thing in a conversation, or was it not being able to access the right information to bring through a conversation? What was the most challenging thing? And then if you could speak to it like kind of in your answer, were people, courses, or platforms most beneficial to you in the process of entering the tech space?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. I would say, to answer the first question, the hardest is getting your foot in the door. And then to answer your second question, the way you do that is your network. Honestly, I think the last panelist talked about relationships a lot. I think it was Lauren that harped on relationships, and I'm just going to echo that and elaborate more on that. It's your network is your net worth. I'm sure you all have heard that a lot of times, and it's honestly that holds true. You want to connect with people, with like-minded people. You want to connect with people that are where you want to be, and you want to form a relationship with them. And if they want to be your mentor, then that's even better. But to answer the question, it's definitely your network. And then the second thing I would say that's hard is in regards to getting your foot in the door is the interviews. The interviews are very tedious if it's for a tech adjacent role or even if it's for a business role, because you got to think about it. You're at a tech company that's 60 or sometimes 80% software engineers, coders, things of that sort. So you have to be on the top of your game in regards to you being coming in from a business perspective. You have to have some hard skills. If you're marketing, Tableau is essential. If you're a more business analyst or strategy, then you want to have some ultra skills, hard skills down pat. And also you want to nail those questions that they ask, those hard questions that they ask during the interviews, because they they do ask some very hard questions. I've got some questions where I didn't know what to say, but it actually prepares you for when you're in tech, because you need to be able to navigate that ambiguity and be flexible and be good on your feet. So to answer your question precisely, it's definitely hard to get your foot in the door. The way you do that is you network and you know those interviews.
Yes. Okay, so it seems like people were most beneficial to you in your process to accessing tech. There was one question in the chat that said, how did you become an intern at Google? Like, what strategy did you have specifically that helped you get to Google? I also want to point out, not everyone wants to be at Google. So like when you first enter, also like speak to the people who want to be at Google, but also like try to speak to the people who want to be in tech, but not necessarily at Google if you can.
Absolutely. So I would just lay out my path to Google, and what I want all the attendees to do is just minus the name. You can put in any tech company you want, any company you want. So coming in my freshman year, you don't have a lot to bring to the table. So what you want to do is you just want to build genuine relationships, genuine friendships with people and with the recruiters that come to campus. So when I got to campus, I saw Google on campus within the School of Business, and I saw it was this one person that was always there, and I assumed it was a recruiter. So I went up to him, just introduced myself, and kind of told him who I am and what I'm about. Manage that relationship, because they don't have any, Google specifically doesn't have any freshman opportunities for business students. So manage that relationship to sophomore year. Then joining clubs. That's another pro tip that you all should do, is join clubs. And even furthermore, you want to get on the executive boards on those clubs. So I was on the executive board for the American Marketing Association, and Google happened to be a corporate sponsor, which I didn't even know when I started that relationship in freshman year. Obviously, I couldn't have, but so through that, we got to go to a site visit, connected with him further, and at this point, I was a sophomore, so they did have a program that was available for me to apply to. And what I did with that is the program was called Bold Immersion, and I won't go too in depth about the program, but what I did is I had asked him to refer me directly and recommend me to that program. Speaking off the encounters that he had, the experience that he knows that I have brought to the table, and that wasn't a requirement of the application. So fast forward all that, I got accepted, got flew out there. It was nice to be out there for a week. And it actually worked out because my internship this summer is virtual, but I still got to experience a week of Google's culture physically. So yeah, that's how I got into Google, internship at Google. But like I said, just want to harp on, don't disregard the company. That's a similar platform or a way that you can find yourself and navigate yourself to any company.
One question that I want to ask is we keep having this conversation about relationships, but I find that sometimes relationships, no matter what you're trying to develop them for, can seem a bit manufactured and just like insincere, and people can tell. And so
exactly.
What is a question that would spark the start of a genuine relationship? Like, what is a question that you've used to actually discover someone that you actually are interested more about them than actually what they can do for you? So, Jehron, if you can kick this off and let us know a question that you've used in an interview or like in a networking session that helped to kickstart a relationship.
Yeah. So I think those would be two separate cases for me. So like in an interview, I like to ask people like, it really depends on their story. So like if they've been there for a long time, I'll ask them like, why didn't you leave? Or like, what kept you here? If they've been here for a short time, like what brought you here? Or if they're like just started, like, what's your end goal in life? Like I'll ask them like deep questions, right? Like questions that at least I haven't been told to ask. And then when it comes to like networking, I always want to focus on purpose and like, your potential and what your goals are, because that's like what I care about a lot. And so I think when people get the chance to really explain like their dreams and ambitions, they'll remember you and feel good about that conversation. I'm not doing it just for them to feel good, but I'm actually interested because I want to help. So those are the type of questions that I like to ask because one, it's memorable, and two, it allows me to really see if I can connect with this person because I'm asking them like a question that's going to allow them to explain who they are.
All right.
Yes, no questions are off limits, just so you know.
Right. And I'll add one little brief thing. First, you need to understand that you're not going to be able to connect with everybody. So that top level manager or executive that you may want to connect with, you all may have nothing in common. So it's going to be very hard to form that relationship and to maintain that relationship. So what you want to do is find common interests. And the way you do that is by asking questions about the different things that they're interested outside of work. And if that resonates with you, you can speak more about how you and what you bring to the table in that same regard. So you want to find the commonalities in people. And then you really just want to have conversations about that and manage that relationship. And then once that relationship is formed and maintained effectively, then you can start talking about business. But as someone said in the last panel, people don't just want to give. They do want something in return. They do want an ROI. So make sure you have something to bring to the table.
Awesome.
One thing too about that point, sorry, I just wanted to you brought up a great point, Zuri, about like you're not going to connect with everybody. And one thing I've found actually real quickly is that there have been times where like, you go to a networking event and like there's that person that that person that's everybody wants to meet, right? And I found that like in general in life, like it's better to have somebody that's not that executive that will speak on your behalf than to like have some email basis like relationship with that executive, right? Because then that person can be your advocate in rooms that you weren't able to go in before.
All right.
So point.
That's a great point.
So the other thing that I want to know is like you're repping Google right now.
Yeah.
We're assuming that you failed at some point. All right.
Yeah.
We're going to take that assumption. That assumption is on the table.
Mm-hmm.
So what companies turned you away?
Jehron, you want to start?
Yeah, I could definitely start. I'm still upset about this. Twitter has rejected me every single year. Every single year I've applied. Twitter has rejected me. I failed my Bloomberg interview like terribly.
I feel that.
Facebook didn't even give me a first round.
Ooh.
Google didn't even give me the junior year software engineering internship as a sophomore, even though I thought I deserved it. So like even within Google, I failed. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
tons of failure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel that.
So then I want to say why I'm asking this question. This question is like these people seemingly are at the top, but like they didn't just go to the top. Obviously,
Right.
we know this, but it's like other people along the way that you would find to be like top tier companies are just as important as Google. We're like, no, this is not the right person for me. So there are always other factors other than your resume that are influencing that decision. So don't ever think because you got a no that it will always be a no, or that like this has to be your end goal because it was for someone else. So I'm sorry, Zuri, go ahead.
No, you provided a great perspective to that. And some companies that have turned me down has been a lot. First, I'll start with McKinsey and Company. So as a freshman in the School of Business at Howard, you're on these teams and you have different case studies and presentations. You're assigned a corporate sponsor. My corporate sponsor was McKinsey and Company. And at the time, I didn't know who they were, but I was checking everything off the list. So come the end of the year, as I mentioned earlier, they provided me with a scholarship. So they provided me with the scholarship. I think I'm going to get into the freshman experience that they have. And it was a diversity experience. I applied, didn't even get to the interview if they had interviews or not. Come second year, applied to the internship. Nope. Come junior year, applied to the internship. Still haven't heard anything back. So that's one example. Another example, and first, before I do this, like I said, I'm a man of faith, so I feel like everything happens for a reason, and God had a plan. But He definitely tested my patience this past recruiting season, because I had interviews with all the companies, at Amazon, I had Nike, I had you name it within consulting or tech, I had it, and literally I was getting rejection after rejection after rejection from Amazon, from Microsoft, who I did 4 back-to-back interviews in Seattle with. Thought I killed
That's
it.
the worst. That's the worst.
I mean, I was in there the day before. I got in the day before purposely and set up connections, set up meetings with people that were in the role to actually just talk with them and to ask them interview questions, for them to ask me interview questions. So I was prepared. I was being proactive. Got in there, felt like I nailed it, felt like I killed it. Nope, didn't get it. So fast forward to the end, the only outstanding opportunity that I have in regards to the applications that I filled out and anyone that hasn't got back to me was Google, and they end up getting back to me. So yeah, just know that God has a plan for you, and stay persistent and don't give up.
Okay, a question from the chat. Thank you both. The question from the chat is, what drew you to the companies that you're at right now? Knowing like you were interested in all these other ones, what other than the fact that they were offering you, a good salary and like
right.
company, what other factors led you to say yes to Google?
I can go ahead. It's just, and I like this question because I have a very different perspective on this because of my longer term goals. And I think the reason that I wanted to work at Google was because Google is well known to both technical people and non-technical people. And my end goal is to be an entrepreneur. I got into entrepreneurship at the age of 16, and I knew from those years that like I wanted to run my own company and change the world somehow. And so I figured that if I worked at like Two Sigma or some smaller company that, I could get very good experience at, and then start a company, it'll be a little bit different than if it's former Google product manager or former Google this, starts this company. And I wouldn't have as big of a network as I did if I was at a smaller company and things like that. So I'm actually, leveraging Google's brand and its network to achieve my longer term goals. And they're very open to that. I remember reading an article about how somebody accepted a job at Google and told the recruiter that she would be leaving in a year. She just needs to work at Google just to make enough money to save to then start a company. And they were like, perfect, go ahead. That's fine with us because it helps their brand at the end of the day. So that's the reason I chose Google. It's a great company, great culture, but like this is a long-term, vision that I'm trying to fulfill.
Yeah. And for me, honestly, it's almost 100% ideal to that. So I'm a business management major, as I stated, and with that, I want to run my own company one day, multiple companies. So that's my end goal. And like Jehron said, I want to use the brand of Google, and I also wanted to use the network that I make with both non-technical and technical persons within Google to leverage that when I want to start and retire early and go start those businesses that I want to start. So yeah, with that being said, just definitely for me, it was the brand equity, and also my experience just with everyone that I came in contact with. They were so down to earth. I remember visiting the Atlanta office, and I was during my internship with PwC in Atlanta. I visited the Atlanta Google office, and I came in there like with some khakis and a polo, and I was afraid like that, like I was underdressed, but they actually thought I was underdressed or over. They thought I was overdressed. I thought I was underdressed, and they thought I was overdressed. So with that being said, that just speaks to the culture and how laid back they are. And I feel like as an athlete, that's who I am. I'm laid back.
Yeah.
For these next couple of questions, they'll be for like each of you individually, just so we can at least get a response to our audience. So, or I also want to chime in on the last question. I think we are Google heavy right now, but I do work at Indeed. There are other tech companies that allow you the same flexibility or flexibility that could be comparable to Google, that invest in their employees just as Google does. I'm in a rotational program, so I am afforded opportunities that other people outside of the program aren't. And then the salary that I have is competitive, and the resources that I have access to are really awesome. And Indeed is a hard company to get into, despite it not being as well known or as coveted as Google. So just don't box yourself in. A tech company, if it has an opportunity, it's just as valuable as a Google. It probably more valuable as a Google with no opportunity. So like, let's just keep that in mind.
Right. Absolutely.
So, Jehron, and I'm gonna toss back just because Zuri just answered. So, would you advise a student to have internships at different companies, or stick to one company and work to receive a full-time offer?
100%. I think just try many different as many companies as you can until you figure out your plan. So a lot of my mentees just are trying to stick with one company. They get into that freshman internship and just go back and do the easy route, which I understand because recruiting is such a tedious process. But I think, when you have the chance to you're never gonna get the chance to just try 3 different companies in 3 years. Like that's probably never going to be an opportunity again. So with your 3 years of undergrad summers, and maybe even 4 if you're doing before your full-time job, like try different companies until you find that one that you can actually see yourself staying in and enjoying. And if you find that during your sophomore year, your junior year, that's fine, and just stay with them. But try them out until you figure out which one's for you.
Can I?
Go ahead and ask something.
Let me just add something, try to be as brief as possible. But literally, I was in that same predicament to the point that Jehron made about coming in and having a freshman experience, then doing a sophomore internship. So when I did the sophomore internship with PW, I completed it successfully and got the return offer. And then I was still weighing out my other options. And PwC, my internship was in Atlanta, and I knew that Atlanta is a place that I may want to stay, but LA is another place that I may want to stay. So I asked them, could they get my offer switched to LA? And at first they were like, we don't know if that's possible. Then the CEO of PwC is on campus at Howard, and I'm invited to the luncheon. So after, I go up and approach him and speak to some of the points that he talked about. But then I asked, is it possible for my offer to be switched to the LA office? And him being the CEO, he just said, yes, it is. So I actually got the offer switched to LA, and then I had the deadline to accept or decline that offer before even the interviews with Google. So I had to take a leap of faith and just say, like, I already had experience here at PwC, and they loved me. They gave me a return offer, and they even switched it to a different location. So I'm not going to necessarily burn any bridges if I go try out another company that I may be interested in working in. So in short, keep your options open and be flexible.
Nice. So I'm going to go back to one of my questions and then come back to the chat. So I was curious if you could provide some insight into what you think is like the singular most common thing that people in tech have in common, or like people that desire to be in tech have in common. Just so people can get an understanding about like what it takes to be in tech, and like what they need to start thinking about developing now so that they can thrive in tech. So what's the singular most common thing, or like the singular asset you believe students should have, or an early professional should develop when trying to transition into tech? Singular means like one word or like a phrase.
I got you. For me, it's definitely flexible. Be flexible. Do you want me to elaborate on that, or we don't have time?
You can like elaborate, but like not like an essay.
I got you. So just be flexible. Be able to navigate ambiguity. There's going to be a lot of uncertainty, and the way you go about that is going to show how effective you are within those companies. Was that good? That was good.
No, that was good. That was nice.
I think for
Jehron.
me, yeah, what I've observed is optimism. The media reports about this a lot too. It's just like this Silicon Valley culture of over optimism, but that's just what the culture is. Like we think that we can change the world. Like we think that we can solve these problems, and that's what we all have in common.
Dope. These are great. I hope y'all are writing this down. So going back into the chat, there was a question related to networking. And the question was, we're not able to network in person anymore. So how do you transition the transition in-person networking into virtual networking? What are the nuances? How do you do it successfully?
Absolutely. So I would say definitely use LinkedIn. Get connected with the person on LinkedIn. Reach out to them. Schedule a call. And when you do schedule that call, try to have it. This is a pro tip for just anything virtual now. Try to have it face to face. Google Hangouts, Microsoft Teams, or something where you can show your face to show one that they know your face and who you are. Two, so that your attention span and your attention is there, because we tend to lose track if we're on a conference call, if we're just on a regular phone call. So definitely make sure that it's if possible, and if they're willing and open to do a face-to-face video virtually, then do that. No, those are the two things that I'll just add.
Yeah, for myself, I would say get creative, and this is whether you can do in person or not. The way I reach out to people, it's funny, like it has a high success rate, but it's crazy. I just tweet like how does one get in touch with and then at that person if they're like a founder or something.
I gotta take notes.
Yeah, bro, I've gotten like 5 out of 6 right now is my success rate. Yeah, so like I mean just get creative, you know, like that's me, that's who I am. Just like tap into like who you are as a person and kind of, you know, double down on your personality and use that to network. So whether it's reaching out to somebody via email and giving them a thoughtful message, tweeting at them just some GIF or something like that, going to their event, coming to conferences like these and just networking with the sessions, like tap into what you're comfortable with and just double down on it.
Love the responses from both of you. Love the responses from both of you. The things I want to add to this is come prepared and know your ask. Always know your ask, but also know your strength, because just in the previous panel, what we stated is you should be able to offer something in return.
Yes.
Whether it's literally like I'm offering, you know, a very insightful question that you've never been asked before, like something that simple can have like a residual effect. So definitely like prepare and bring something to the table, and it doesn't have to be this big thing. Don't feel like you have to have a venture proposal ready to go or something like this. Like, small things go a very long way, and where you are in your life as far as like a student, that will also help frame your story for you as well. So the other question that's in this chat is, could we revisit the questions that you should ask during interviews and networking? I think some people wanted to jot those down.
Oh, was it the questions that I had, or I think because I provided 2, I remember.
Just say them again, and maybe they can catch them.
Okay, yeah. So the first one I had was with somebody who's interviewing me. I would just ask them about like why they stayed at the company, why if they're there for a really long time, like why haven't they left, what brought them to the company, and then another question for just networking in general, just talking about like purpose, dreams, vision, like just getting people like excited to like brainstorm and just live in that dreaming mode. Yeah, those are the questions that I have.
Yeah, and I'll use that same framework. So from a interview standpoint, one of the questions, if the person is in the role that you're interviewing for, you can ask them what are the qualities and characteristics of someone that's highly effective in that specific role, and take note of those characteristics and those skills and try to apply those. And actually, if they provide you their contact information, follow with them maybe half a semester or a semester later about how you've actually met those goals and developed and enhanced those skills that you all talked about in the interview. And then from a general networking a networking standpoint, like Jehron kind of mentioned, you really just want to speak to them. People like to talk about themselves. So literally,
Yeah.
majority of your questions should be about them and what they can offer, and less about you and what you want to receive.
Nice. The other thing that I have always done was at the end of an interview, no matter what stage it was, what reservations do you have about me at this point?
Mm.
Mm.
And I do that because if there's anything that you're leaving this call questioning, I want to ensure that I've done everything that I can to ensure that you know that I'm the right person for this, because after I leave, there's nothing that I can do.
That's
And
it,
this,
Yeah.
so I ask that question, and then they normally tell me, and then I am able to offer an explanation. And so I think that well, so actually, we can't add any more.
Oh man.
So we're actually at time. I wanted to say these two things. So both Jehron and Zuri we're closing, two things. One, offer two actions, two very clear to see actions that each of the audience members can take in order to get one step closer to tech, and then also go ahead and plug yourself. So answer that question and then plug yourself.
Jehron, you want to start?
Yeah, I could go. So actions. You said two actions, right?
Yep.
One would be subscribing to some newsletter. So I have a Wired subscription. You can do TechCrunch. Subscribe to some tech newsletter so that you understand the language of tech and what's going on. And then the second thing is focus on what you want, problems you want to solve, because there's probably a tech company that's using tech to solve that problem, or you have an idea for a company that doesn't exist yet. That's how you can bridge your way into tech. And then as far as my social and stuff like that, I think the best place would just be Twitter. So it's my first name, Jehron, and then the first letter of my last name, P. And then I have links in my bio to my Twitch and then my personal website in there. So Twitter's best.
Yep. And I'll just give one because I know we're at time. So one action. Okay, great. So definitely the first one is to get connected with the recruiters within tech. They know all the nuances of how to get into tech, and specifically for your position, how to navigate and how to successfully prepare for the interviews. So if you have some recruiters from different programs within the company that you have formed a relationship with, when you're applying to just that one position, say you get turned down for that one position, you have two other recruiters that may have opportunities for you, and you can leverage them to get to the opportunities that you want. And then the second thing I would just say is prepare. I can't stress it enough, Dom, and I think you talked and alluded to it, but prepare for everything. Prepare for the call that you have that you may think is very minuscule in relation to the grand scape of things. So prepare for those interviews, prepare for those conference calls, prepare. And then for my social media handles, everything is at Zuri Godfrey, my first and last name, so you can connect with me on that. And I just wanted to thank everybody for this panel. It was very esteemed.
Yes. No, thank you guys for contributing your stuff, Jehron. I saw you dropped in the comments, color collab, so I'm looking forward to that. To it. Thank you so much.
Myself real quick, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So my Instagram is at the Diamond Effect _ and then LinkedIn is Diamond Henderson. I'm also going to be a panelist at the recruiting panel later today. So more of you please come through. And if you need help, like mentorship or guidance, just please let me know because I'd love to do it.
Okay. Thank you so much, guys. We learned so much during this session. I'm not even in tech, and now I feel like I want to work at Google now because of this conversation. So thank you so much for your insight, guys. We're going to transition into the next session. Bye.
Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
Okay.
How do you leave?
Okay.